Welcome back, folks. That must have been quite a short break for those of you who did make it to the AMA with Brandon Johnson and then our icebreaker sessions. Do let us know how you found the experience of the icebreaker sessions. We're trying this tool for the first time, and so constantly trying to evolve and improve. So let us know how you found it. If you prefer Zoom Hangouts more, and we can tweak our ongoing socials for the conference accordingly. So moving ahead, that was a really incredible start to day one of the conference. Had some again incredible speakers to kick off the morning. We spoke about venturing out on your own with four incredible panelists. We learned a little about how you could start newsletters as a side project and even monetize them, and overarchingly getting a little sneak peek into community building. And then from there, Tyler taught us a little bit about this new model. Relatively new model / framework of productized services, which again, for many designers, along with the options of freelancing or straight up contracting, could be a really interesting path to explore. So next up, we have our keynote speaker for the day. Really stoked to welcome Chris Do to join us today for 5 to 9 conference and share his journey with his what used to be a side project, the Future. So I'm sure everyone, if not 99.9% folks in our community, already know Chris or know about Chris. But I'll still give a short intro. So Chris Do is the CEO and chief strategist at Blind, and he's the founder of the Future. Chris is an Emmy award-winning designer, director, and he's the founder of Futur, which is an online education platform with an incredible mission of teaching 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love. So let's have some virtual emoji applause going in Attendify, and let's welcome Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, we are extremely thankful that you are able to join us for this. Really stoked about it.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Where are you joining us from?
I'm currently in my home studio in the Pacific Palisades, which is like blocks away from the ocean. So I'm in a good spot right now.
That's amazing. That's incredible. One thing also I was noticing when I was just looking at your setup now and all the YouTube videos that I've consumed over the past few years, I was trying to solve this challenge today. I look at the camera, then I always look down at you when you speak, and I'm like, I was joking. I was like, someone needs to make the Mac with like a, like space in the middle where you just fit the camera so you can look at the person.
Just put a hole right in the middle of the screen.
Yeah. 1 minute design decisions. It's like without much thinking. So Chris, everyone's really excited to learn about your journey personally with the Future. I think not many are aware that it started as a side project when you were still running your agency and how that transition happened. But before we dive into that, I'd love to know how have you been doing with the past few months with everything going around us?
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered, and I think we're all going through this together. And it's one of these phenomenons that I think, no matter where you live in the world, you're experiencing some form of this. And I think it reminds us of how much we have in common versus our differences. But in terms of how we've adjusted, we've made the decision to permanently moving forward from here on out, regardless of when things return to normal, to work remotely. So I still have this office space, but there's nobody there except for my two editing and production team members. They're there, but everybody else is working remotely. And it was a very smooth transition for us because at that point in time, prior to the lockdown, my team had been mostly working remotely, just occasionally stopping into the office. And so now we have this abundant space, and we're kind of just thinking, what else can we do with this besides office space? So the gears are turning here.
That's incredible. That's amazing. I think many of us were struggling with the hybrid remote model that was going on for the past 2-3 years. And now, this change definitely forced many of us to completely see the benefits of working distributed. So that's incredible. So I won't pause everyone for too long before we dive into the content. part, I do request the attendees and audience watching us to keep the questions coming in Attendify. I will, as Chris shares his journey, I will try and organically either include them in the conversations and the talk as they come. Otherwise, we'll try and have some time towards the end. That sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started.
Okay, so I prepared a little presentation for you guys. I know this is a fireside chat and I want to have a conversation, so I'm going to encourage you to interrupt me, to feed me questions as I go. And, before I didn't really know what to expect, so I'm going to repeat a little bit of everything here. So in case you guys don't know me, my name is Chris Do. I'm the founder of the Futur, and it's really what I want to share with you guys today in terms of like what I was able to do as a side kind of art experiment project that led to this whole adventure that I'm on, that brings me to my life's work, my mission. And these are some of the videos we've produced with some very notable and influential people in the creative space. I'm very proud of the work we've done thus far. And we recently just passed 900,000 subscribers from a very modest beginning. I'm still blown away to this day, like how far we've come and where we started. And as you mentioned, my mission is to teach 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love without losing their soul. But this wasn't always that clear. So I'm going to take you back to 2014 when I'm standing where many of you might be standing yourself and thinking about, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with my future? And is there more for me than the thing that I'm doing today? Now, to kind of putting this in context with COVID going on, I'm sure there are a lot of other bigger questions that you're thinking about. So let me just take you back in time. So here we are. This is where our office is in Santa Monica. Like I mentioned, it's a big old space, 13,000 square feet. I don't know what the metric standard for that is, but anyways, so this is our office, and our company's called Blind, and we've had the honor and privilege of working on some really amazing, culturally relevant projects, music videos for bands like Jet, Gnarls Barkley, Justin Timberlake, working on big commercial and platform launches for Xbox and Sony and everything in between. And had a lovely time doing that, and have even been featured in magazines, won a bunch of awards, and got to meet famous people like Chris Martin from Coldplay. And I think this is one of the last big projects that we did, just to show you the scope and scale at which we work and to give you some context there. But something was digging inside of me, something else, and I was living a double life. Still faithful to my wife, but a different kind of double life, one where I was working as a teacher part-time, teaching at Art Center and at Otis and Cal Arts and lecturing from time to time. And I was doing this for 15 years, and I loved everything about it. I loved working with my students, helping them to find their voice and to realize their ideas and put that creative spark inside of them. And this is a shot of me just working through storyboards. I think those are my hands. I can't remember. Those baby hands are mine. All right, just working through ideas with people. And I felt like I was stuck at a crossroads where I was running a company, making money, but there's something that was missing, this hole that I just couldn't fill, like with the work that I was doing. Very profitable, but not exactly what I wanted to do with my life's work. And then there was this idea of teaching, which was very gratifying to my creative soul, what I needed to do, but it wasn't paying a whole lot. So I felt like I had to make this very difficult choice of being a successful entrepreneur or, sadly, a broke teacher. I was getting paid less than I was paying some of my freelancers. So imagine the owner of the company is getting paid less than the people he pays. And that's the situation. And it became really crystal clear for me on one of these drives with my wife. So she will oftentimes go to class with me, sit in and attend, and I would just eagerly wait for class to be over so I can talk to her and ask her, how did I do? And she's very straightforward. You could trust your partner, in this case, my wife, to be the truth sayer to me. I knew she wasn't going to BS anything. And she's like, honey, I love it. I see the energy. I know why you're so excited about teaching. And when you come back from teaching, you're just full of life. But let me ask you this question. And there's always a but in these conversations, right? Where you prepare and brace for impact. But do you ever get bored doing the same thing every semester? Do you feel like there's more people you can reach than the 8 to 12 students you have in every class? And when I heard that, I forgot all the positive things she said. I just really focused on the negative part, which is you're judging me, you're asking me to do something, and you're just kind of stealing the win from my sales right now. And it was really hard to hear this, that she was asking me to change. And I love this quote from Socrates. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So in this moment, I wasn't really listening to what she was saying. Just everything in my body was just fighting it because I didn't want to change. So I was asked to do something and think about something that was very unfamiliar, new to me, and scary with unpredictable results. So for sure, I was not ready. And I think what was happening was I was waiting for a mentor to appear in my life. So this is me, I guess. I'm not Yoda. I'm the Luke Skywalker trying to still figure out my way in the world. And my Yoda came in the form of a hairy, sometimes messy ADHD guy named Jose Caballero. And if you guys have watched the show before, you've seen the many little bits we go back and forth on. And he was my mentor in this story. And he said, Chris, I know the answer. We got to go on YouTube. We're going to go teach it. And I promptly said, no. I'm a behind the camera talent. I'm not in front of camera talent. But he doesn't take no easily. So he's like, let's do it. And I kept thinking about that conversation I had with my wife and thought, maybe this was the universe sending me some kind of signal. Like, this is the time to go. And I've said this before, when opportunity knocks, you have to be willing to open the door and let it in. And most of us are too busy doing other things when there's a knock at that door, we just ignore it, right? But I'm not easily convinced. And I'm like, no. But like I said, he's not going to take no for an answer. And he tells me, I got you. And I'll help you. I'll support you. We can do this together. You got me? And this is kind of how it felt. You sure you got me? And putting video out felt like that. I was so awkward, tense. My jaw hurt the day after, and I couldn't figure out why. I was so spare in my words because I didn't want to say something to damage my professional relationship and my clients. Okay, so here's something else from Thomas Jefferson. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. And I definitely wanted this, so it meant a lot of hard work ahead. And this is the thing I want to tell everybody, that if you're thinking about doing something like this, you just need to remember this. In order to achieve your goals, you must first be able to vividly see the future. This is really important, to imagine it so that all the details, where are you? What does it look like? Who are you in that space with? To imagine that. Because it has to be real in your mind first. And then you have to then make a commitment to creating it. And the best way I know how to commit to something is to tell a whole bunch of people that you care about, that you respect, I'm going to do this thing by this date. And then the rest of it's the hard work, taking a little step, knowing that that first step will be your hardest step, and then being 100% accountable for everything that happens after that point. That's been the secret to my success. So this is another quote from Zig Ziglar from his book Goals. In a 1986 Harvard study, it revealed that outstanding people have one thing in common. They don't go to work every day. They go on a mission. So back when I was running blind, I was really going to work, even though I owned the company. I was on a mission to change the face of commercial advertising. Just went to work to make money, to provide for my family, to do something that every once in a while would give me that joy, that creative spark. But now I needed to figure out a way to bring all of me together. And this is a map of who I am as a human being. These are things that I love, right? So I love to design. I really get a kick out of helping other people. I'm good at motion design, been practicing it for 2 decades. I love learning advertising, entrepreneurship, post-production. I won't read all these things to you. I can see helping others is here twice. It must be very important. So getting back to that big choice that I had to make between being a broke teacher and successful entrepreneur, I didn't realize, but there was a third choice to make. I can be an entrepreneurial teacher. I know this sounds like an oxymoron, like these things do not exist, but in my world, they exist. And in realizing this, that I could teach, but teach on a scale and apply all my business learnings, my business acumen, the video production, all the things I love, everything that made me, I found my superpower. And that's when I get really excited about what's going on. So I want to give you guys a little sneak peek into my side hustle becoming my main hustle, my only hustle. So here's what the numbers look like, right? Oh, before I do that, I found my genius work that is important for me, work that matters, work that makes an impact, that's hopefully going to live long after I'm gone. And I hope that you guys are able to find your genius work. And oftentimes the side hustle is just the beginning of that. Okay, so here's the year-to-year comparison. So in 2014, when we started with Jose and I working together, we didn't make a whole lot of money. So we worked for a whole year to make $15,000. That was barely enough to put food on the table just for one person like Jose. But we're making progress and we don't quit. Things get tough, but we just don't quit. 2015, we almost tripled our revenue, $42,000. That's a pretty good entry-level salary, right? 2016 is when it starts to get really interesting. And now it's like, maybe we're on to something. Maybe we can actually make a go of this. Unfortunately, Jose and I had different ideas and vision and working methodologies to get there. So we parted ways as friends. And this is when the Futur was born in 2016. We separated. I still work with him today, still consider him a dear friend, and I'm moving on. So you can see now we're starting to get this 300% growth, which is awesome, which is triple-digit growth, which I'm just blown away. And so here we are in 2018. I was thinking, wow, 1.78. So in 2019, our goal was to hit $3 million, and we just barely squeaked past that. So those are the numbers. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. And you know what the really cool part is? It's not about getting rich, about getting $1 million. It's not about that. It's that I can sustain my life to support the people that I love and care about, to employ a team while helping others. That's the most beautiful part of this. Now, I'm going to take a break from it right here and stop. And I can get into the details of how and where we make money, but I just wanted to pause and have a conversation with you, Preet.
Absolutely. Even the part you were sharing, I was like, I should maybe just let you share that. Yeah, I was making some notes because I didn't want to, bug a kind of like
sure.
flow. And I really like I think the quote you were sharing about, committing 100% to it, like seeing the future, creating it and going 100% on it. And a challenge that I think I surely deal with, and I think many creatives in our community also face, is sometimes like, how do you see the future? Like, you have some inklings and you're trying to latch onto it. But so when you started the Futur, like, was it like, what stage of the future were you already aware of, right? Did you see it becoming a massive YouTube following, or was it the 1 billion goal right from the beginning?
No, it was not from the beginning for sure. And I think this is going to sound a little strange because it'll sound like kind of anti a lot of what you've heard from other people, which is, generally speaking, the way I govern my life is I kind of know what the end looks like. I don't quite know what form and shape it takes, and I'm willing to change along the way. I know generally the direction. So I knew I wanted to teach, and I wanted to do in a way that I can support myself in the ways that I'm used to.
Right.
And I don't want to be an undervalued teacher. I want to be paid what I think I'm worth. And so that's just general direction. I don't know if it's through YouTube. I don't know if it's a physical school.
Right.
I really don't know what form and shape it takes.
Right. Yeah, that's a very, I think, I surely think that's a very strong skill also you have. But also I'm trying to think, like, how can more of us think that way? Because I think, as you said, sometimes the mainstream opinion, or maybe it's the startup mentality, which is like, oh, just try a thing, break things, doesn't work, move on. And so you see a lot of folks from the outside, it'll be like, oh, Chris runs a YouTube channel and has 1 million views, so I should start that today. And I was like, oh, it didn't work after a month, right? So how did the resilience and everything come in? Because you already knew where you were going.
Yeah, so the danger there is, if you see somebody and that they're successful, you're going to try to copy or emulate the results, not what they were trying to do. So having 900,000 subscribers or followers on YouTube is a byproduct of me trying to teach the world.
Right.
So it's the mission that you're on that's really important. And I have to say this because it can be overwhelming for a lot of people to say, well, I don't have that big ambition. Like, what am I going to do? It usually doesn't start like that. I think back into hundreds of years ago when They were exploring the world. These great explorers who would sail across the Atlantic and try and find land. They had an idea, and I think Columbus thought it was going to be India that he was going to touch, but he found a whole nother place. And it was just like, I have an idea that there's more to this, that the world is not flat. We're not going to fall off the edge. And where he lands, it becomes a whole nother thing. Now, there are consequences of his discovery, of course, but that's kind of like me. I'm like, there is something out there. I think there's this hybrid that can live where teachers are paid what they're worth, that students get the best first-class education from world-class teachers, and that the organization that brings these two things together can actually profit from it. What that looks like, I don't know. And then you just take a step and you just keep adjusting, because I could not predict in 2014 where we would be today. It's still pretty nuts to me that there are 900,000 people who have said, at least in one small token, hey, I'm interested in more of what you're doing. Sign me up. And we talk about really boring things like negotiations, how to make money, how to deal with clients who push back and devalue your work. It's not sexy stuff. I'm not building a hot rod. You know, I'm not walking around with a 6-pack hanging out at a party house. It's really boring, trite stuff, but people show up, and that just blows my mind. Right.
Yeah, I think the topics you talk about are also things that people, and you've said it multiple times, like, you know, people kind of like stay away from, or they sometimes like talking about money is like almost like, oh, it's gross, like don't talk about money. But it's like a very big factor that we need to, you know, not just sustain ourselves, but as you said, help others too. You want to build sustainable, you know, organizations and teams and structures. And talking about that, this was a point that came out in the morning panel too, which is when you were talking about, you know, that drive back from school where you were talking to your wife and she asked you that question. What stage, you know, like if you can share a little sneak peek into what stage of life were you at? Because usually it's, for many people, it's the switch part or the jump part can also be influenced by a lot of other factors, you know, financial, social. It's like, oh, do I leave all these amazing friends I made, you know, as a teacher at the school you're working in, and now and it can be quite lonely initially, right? Trying to start something on your own, financial uncertainty. So was there like a big support structure around you that was encouraging you, apart from, of course, the mentor that you, you know, Jose, you talked about?
Right. Very, very good question. So I was already at a place where I was kind of financially set to retire. I had been meeting with my financial advisor for many years at this point, but I had asked him at one point, his name is John. I'm like, John, so when can I retire? Like, I want to do something else with my life. And he said, Chris, you could have retired years ago. I looked at your numbers. You have enough money, and the way that you guys spend, you're not crazy in how you spend money. You're going to be fine. And so it was really interesting. And having that conversation freed me up. You know, that they ask you this hypothetical question all the time. Whereas if you didn't have to make money, what would you do with your life? And most of the times it's hypothetical. But in this case, it was real, because John's like, you know, what do you want to do? You could do whatever you want. And so that kind of was the primer for opening up to like, what else can I do with my life? And also was coinciding with the way that our industry was changing. We're in the service business. We work mostly with ad agencies and some artists when we work on music videos. But I could see that the need for what we do, the premium that people used to pay for it, it was going away. I wasn't sure how fast it would go away, but it was going to go away. And so there's that survival part. Even though I financially was okay, I wanted to make sure that the people who worked for me at that time would still have a job, because through no fault of their own, if I don't have the vision, the foresight, and the leadership to steer the company in a positive direction, they'll be out of a job. And that's a responsibility that I've taken on. So I wanted to make sure that they had a job. And so we did a couple of different things. Some of them didn't work out. And now ultimately it led us to exactly where we're at right here. One of the interesting things was in 2018, in December of 2018, I'm having a management meeting with my team, and we're talking, and I said, you know, this is what we need to do. And Matthew Encina, one of my creative directors, he had said to me, you know, all the time we talk about the work that we need to create and the calls we have to make to like get clients in the door. What if we just focus on the future? We might not make as much money, but everything we build for the future will last. And there's a big difference here. And I want to explain a concept that I'm starting to share with people. When you're out there in the service world, you're working like a hunter. You look for a client, and it could be a long time. You track this animal, you track the client, and you lure it into the spot where you can actually get the kill, and then you kill, and then you feast for a while. So the money that you make from one big client is able to sustain you for maybe a couple of months. And then there's these long dry spells in between. Very unpredictable. It means we have to be very nomadic. We have to kind of go where the herd is going and track them down. The future is a totally different business model. It's one where it's really akin to farming. So we both need to eat. The hunter hunts, the farmer plants, tills the soil, and fertilizes and tends to the crop. It's slow. It's not sexy. And if you don't mind it, it all goes away and your crop's destroyed. So we plant our seeds and we have no results, and people are starving. They're like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And eventually one of these plants bears fruit. But once you've done this work and if you maintain it, it's not going to feed you for a really long time. And now we have predictable income, a predictable source of revenue or food, and we're able to harvest on a regular basis. We have very predictable revenue streams, right? We know exactly where we're supposed to be month to month and year to date. So I know from 2018 where we should be in 2021 based on our projections. And so it's a whole different mindset. And that's the big shift. So with Matthew's challenge, we decided, let's just go for it. Let's stop taking client work. And it was really difficult because we were tested right away. When a big, sexy client came over to us and said, will you do this? We'll give you the creative freedom that you need. And we decided, let's stick to this and let's see what happens. And so it was a test of courage and faith, but luckily we made it through 2019. We stopped doing client work. We've not done client work in a year and a half now.
Wow, that's incredible. And I love the analogy, the hunting and the farming one. I think that just makes it so clear around the concept. But yeah, just one more kind of follow-up thought on the on this part of the journey that you shared. There is like when you were doing the agency first, and of course built the team, built the client pipeline, did a lot of work. I know it's not easily comparable to what you're doing at the Futur, but quite often there's this you get told that to pursue, you can, especially, and maybe it's just the my Indian heritage or my Indian parent, my parents being Indian, that it's you're taught that you first have to invest your time and do the hard work, and you might not even like the thing that you have to do, but you do it and you reach the success metrics that you have, and then you can go and pursue the creative ideas that you want to work on. So now, like, how much of that before you reached that point where your financial advisor told you that you could retire right now, how much of the work that you were already doing were you like fully invested in or enjoying, or did you know that, okay, I just need to get this business to a level and then I can do something else?
I went to art school. I went to Art Center and studied graphic design, and I never thought that I would be in this place that I was. And I want to give it some context. Okay. So I graduated in 1995, and it was at the dawn of the motion graphics revolution, or whatever the industry that was coming to bear. So I was in this very unique time and place where people were throwing tons of money at people like myself to do this kind of work. And it was a rare opportunity. So believe it or not, in the first year of just working on my own, even though I had a modicum level of success, I was able to pay off all my student loans, to pay off all my credit card. And then 2.5 years into the business, my wife and I, we bought, with the help of her parents, a $500,000 home in Venice Beach, 2 blocks away from the ocean. And so when you say, like, when did you feel like you could stop? I could have stopped there. And then I think a couple years into it, I was able to pay off the loan that my mother-in-law gave us. And we were just making money all over the place. That was probably one of the most profitable times of my life. I had only 2 or 3 employees, and we're doing millions of dollars of business, and it was just mostly profit.
Right.
So if I was a little bit smarter with how I invested my money, this is a different arc in my journey, excuse me, where if I learned how to invest my money instead of throwing it in the stock market and losing it all in the .com, I would have been fine. So I think what you're asking is there's a responsibility from your parents to say, like, do the responsible thing and then do this creative endeavor on the side. And I know this. I feel this in my heart. And I have no facts or data to back this up. But when you do something that is really not a goal that you have in your life, you will never put 100% of yourself into it. And here's the problem, is that you'll be next to people who this is their calling. And they will throw 100% of themselves in it, and they will succeed. They will work a little harder. They will endure a little bit more punishment. They will show up to practice, and you won't. So eventually you won't even be good at that. And then you look back on your life when you're 40, 50, 60 years old, and you wonder, what was my genius work? I never found that. And now, is it too late for me? A big portion of people who reach out to me are in that arc, in that group where they say, Chris, I'm even older than you, and I haven't even figured out what it is that I want to do in my life. And that's heartbreaking for me, because we know time is not on your side. Energy is not on your side. Opportunity is not on your side. People don't routinely open the door for old geezers like myself and say, oh, you want to learn this thing, old man? We'll give you the shot. No, they want to hire the young people. That's what they're doing, right? They're investing in new blood so that they can build a franchise around them. So I just think this advice of doing the safe, predictable, responsible thing is actually risky, unpredictable, and is going to lead to a life where you're not fulfilled, and your life is just too short.
Right. And I think right on that thought, Brianna is asking a question that would you suggest making a switch like this later on in your career as a designer? And I'm assuming she's referring to going from running a business, a little more predictable revenue, to more creative driven.
Yeah. So of course, you have to have a high level of self-awareness, like what you're willing to do. And I don't want to send this message out there into the world, and somebody who's kind of half committed is still trying to figure out who they are and don't know what kind of work it's going to involve, for them to take any advice from me and then ruin their lives, right? I don't want you to do that. So how do you know if you're like me? Well, I'm a guy who's obsessed with learning. Like, I will stay up to 2 a.m. learning a new trick in Photoshop or Illustrator that I could have done in minutes, but I wanted to learn the new way. And that's the kind of sick addiction that I have. And I work hard. I mean, I work harder than most people work. Like, when people say that I've worked hard, that's like where I begin and that's where they stop, kind of thing, right? And so this is me, and I'm obsessed. Like, I looked at the numbers. Like, back in 2014, Jose would look at me and say, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm studying the numbers, man. I want to see which episode's performing. I want to see which ones people care about and how they're commenting. And I'm reading every single comment and responding to every single one. And I still do that to this day on all platforms. So it's a lot of work. So if you're committed to doing that, then I say, you know what, you got to go for it. And my life has been a series of decisions where I really didn't care about my financial future. And the irony is, it's always led me to a financial future. So when I studied graphic design, our department chairman, James Miho, had said, when you graduate, those of you guys that are lucky enough to get a job will probably earn $24,000 a year. And right then and there, I knew I'm going to be just sacked with debt, and I'm not going to get rich doing this, but I don't care. I don't slow off the pedal. I step down and I go even faster. I want more of this now. And all that stuff is like to say that I'm super passionate. I'm learning about drawing, about 3D modeling, about animation, things that if I didn't have that passion, that drive, I would have taken my foot off the gas pedal. So I just lose myself. I'm just consumed by trying to be the best designer that I can be. And then these opportunities open up. Your classmates, your teachers take notice, right? And then your work gets out there, and then they help you. And they're not even aware they're helping you, but they're helping you. And then one thing leads another. So I dive into motion graphics, which wasn't a term back then. And I said, I'm going to leave the safe, secure world of print design behind. I'm just going to go to motion design. So that was not a market that was available. And you know what? I know people tell me during that time, you're not a director. You don't know how to do this stuff. You don't know how to make commercials. And my whole attitude is, you're right. You're right. Let me figure it out. And I will figure it out. And eventually we're directing full commercials with live action, with visual effects, things I did not learn in school. So that's that passion, like finding that calling, and then saying, I want to do brand strategy now. I want to do digital design, what I guess they refer to as product design these days in Silicon Valley. And it's like, I want to do that now, and I can get good at this, and I will learn. I will suck at the beginning. And then I want to make content on YouTube. I want to teach the world. And the funny thing is, I try to imagine like what's happening in my parents' mind, because they barely understand what I did in the 20 years that I was doing it. And then I think to this day, my dad still's like, what, you're on YouTube? Like where I watch videos about news and things, and you can make money doing this? I'm like, yeah, Dad. And there's a lot of people who want to learn how to do it too. Mm-hmm. And now I guess in some circles, I'm considered a influencer. And it's like, mm-hmm. What is that even? Like, okay, let me explore this thing. I'm going to just try.
Incredible. It also, I think everything you're sharing about your journey, and also how you were taking these decisions kind of reflects that you definitely, were very kind of like strong-willed. And I think you were saying that you had the self-awareness, and you invested in the clarity, getting the clarity in your mind. And I think I heard in one of your videos too that you mentioned that just like we get coaches for our bodies, and you go to the gym, that you need to invest and believe in getting the coaches for your mind.
Yes.
If you can like again, how do you even like think of those things, right? Like, is it just like you're sitting and you think about that framework or the analogy, and then how does one even go about kind of harnessing that kind of a mental model?
Yeah, it's tricky for sure. It's tricky, and I think the beginning of this is that you have to just get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think parents want to take care of us. They want to help prevent pain and suffering and anxiety in their children. So they create a whole world around them, a framework or structures to protect them from failing. And I know the joke is like, now we give participation trophies to everybody. It's like, no, I want to know what it's like to be third place. I want to know what it's like not to be picked to play on my team, to feel that humiliation and embarrassment, because I don't like that taste. And I will try to find a way to prevent that on my own. A friend of mine, Noreen Morioka, said, I don't know where she found this or if it's her saying or not, but she said, comfort is a slow death. So for me, I've always ran towards the uncomfortable, to put myself out there, to do public speaking when I'm not ready, to figure out even how to set up this home studio, right? Like if you think about the amount of technology, because people always ask me like, how is it that you look like this and sound like this?
Right.
And I would tell my wife, nothing here was made by somebody other than me. Meaning like I had to figure it out. I buy this wire, I plug that in. What else do I need? And I would sketch it out, and I would try things. And I taught myself cinematography. I taught myself editing and lighting. There's no less than 3 lights on me right now. If you count the monitor, it's 4 lights. And I'm looking at 5 screens right now. And these are things that you build. And if you can capture that excitement of a 12-year-old kid seeing something for the first time, like unwrapping your Christmas presents or your Hanukkah present or whatever it is, you open it up with that kind of enthusiasm. If you approach your life like that, you will do well.
So true. Amazing. I think every single experience of learning you share, it seems like a topic in itself. Thank you so much, Chris. I'm just quickly going through the audience questions and comments.
Sure.
Of course, like a lot of appreciation, coming for you, and a lot of folks saying, they cannot tell you how helpful and integral you've been in their lives and their learnings. Someone's asking about your age, Chris.
I'm 48.
Okay. You nearly don't look close to 48, but yeah, that's incredible. Someone's asking, Sarah is asking, do you have any kind of approach to finding actually, even I'm not able to interpret that question. Do you have any kind of
Okay.
approach to finding genius work?
Yes, I do. Actually, there's a video whiteboard session that we did called how to do what you love, the Ikigai exercise. And I've actually formalized a workshop around this called Finding Your Superpower. And I developed it prior to learning about Ikigai, but then once I learned about it, it maps almost exactly like it. So it's kind of interesting how we all come to the same conclusion. But you have to kind of look at you as a totality, like who you are as a human being, the things that you love, the things that you're good at, and what the world will pay you to do and what the world needs. And you start to find that intersection, that really sweet spot where you bring all those things together. That slide that I had up where I was connecting the dots, that was me mapping out my own life, my own interests, and my own mind, and bringing all those things together. And when I do that, I don't just compete against, say, a designer or an editor or a YouTube content creator or a business person because I'm in a unique category. My whole point in life is to eliminate my competition, right? If you have no competition, it makes you scarce and very valuable. So there are people who can out-teach me in any one of the categories, but probably not all. And I'm able to synthesize those things together. Now, I didn't come to this realization until my 40s, mind you. So people who are in their 20s saying, "Oh, I haven't figured it out." It's like maybe it's just not your time yet, and that's okay. And you're still in the exploration phase of your arc, your journey, your story, and that's totally okay. That you just need to be patient and say, like, I'm gonna figure it out. And some people, there's a young man that I met, and he's I think 17, and he is a coach for sales. And I was thinking to myself, this is not possible. How can a 17-year-old guy be a coach for sales? This is all BS. I talked to him. It's not BS. He loves doing this thing. He's very good at it, and he threw himself in it, and he excels. And I could totally see that. So the sooner you can find your superpower, your ikigai, or your genius work, the better off you're going to be. The problem is you're going to be in this weird blind spot where you can't see your own gifts, and you don't have the experience to know what the world needs. And so somebody who's a little older than you, who has a little bit more clarity on this stuff, they might be able to help you bring those things together.
Right. Okay, Chris, we have about 16 minutes left.
Okay.
I'd like to finish the thought you were sharing earlier with your presentation, and then if we have 5 minutes at the end for some Q&A, we can.
Oh yeah, sure. So I try to live a very transparent life. So I'll share my deck now. So people often ask us, how do we make money? How we make money, right? And so I'm going to just share with you, and I've updated some of these numbers. Of course, if I had Ben Burns doing this, he would show me exactly, but I'm pretty close with these things. So from a donation point of view, every single month, people give us money, and I think it's close to 500 people. Sometimes it goes way over 500 people, and they send me money via Venmo, a part of our donation page. They super chat us, but it gets us about $2,500 a month. And so if you're in a developing country, you might think like, oh my God, just on donations alone, you can live off that, right? Because in some areas of the world, people live off $5,000 a year annually. I mean, that's the state of things, okay? And on Google AdSense, we do about $12,000 a month, just passively on our main channel, a lot less on our second channel. We do affiliate marketing, which means like we recommend products and services and things that we like and love, and people buy that, and we have partnerships there. We do about $4,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing public speaking, it's going to be anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. Mm-hmm. Okay, now when we get into brand deals, people will say like, we love your channel, we love what you stand for. Do you like what we do? Because we'll pay you to talk about it. And we have things like that, like Notion. We love Notion and Pork Bun. So they pay us money, and it's usually around $10,000. Sometimes it's more than that. I do private coaching. I do about 6 calls a month, and I do it at $1,000 an hour. And that nets me about $6,000. Okay. We have this thing called the Pro Group. So there's, I think, 380 people in it that pay $150 a month to be a part of it. And so that throws off about $57,000 of income for us every single month. I don't want to bring this up because if you had a rental property, you'd have to have a sizable investment to be able to have a building that throws off that kind of income. And it blows me away that 380 people join me in a group on Facebook to talk about business and entrepreneurship and design and creativity. And they hopefully see greater value than what they're paying me. And that still blows my mind. Like when I tell my dad this, I'm like, Dad, look at what we're doing here. He's like, what? How is this even possible? And then the bulk of where we make our money is from kits and courses that we sell. We do about $5,000 to $7,000 a day, every single day, Saturday, Sunday, days in which I'm awake, days in which I'm asleep. It doesn't matter. I'm traveling. This is what we call the passive income, right? This is living that passive income life. And to break it down a little further, here are 3 courses or 3 things that we've made that I'll show you the numbers. So these are lifetime sales. And I think the number's a little higher because when it gets bundled, I don't know those numbers. But in individual unit sales, my typography 1 course has grossed over $464,000. The pro group at this time is more than $500,000. It's way more than that at this point. And then the logo design and construction class is $213,000. And that's how we make money. That's it.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you for
sure.
Yeah, as you said, like sharing it so transparently. I think firstly, it surely helps folks understand what is achievable. But at the same time, I think what you said earlier also, that you didn't start with the goal that how do I build a Facebook group that will make me $50,000
right
income, right? You went towards your passion, gave it your all, and it reaps the rewards, reaps the results. Yeah.
Right.
Incredible. Chris, I'll take a few other questions before we start to wrap up. So Kara is asking if you have any tips to help people build a growth mindset, or, how do they make themselves more open to learning?
That's a good question. I would love to be able to talk to Kara about this because I think it's a very individual question, but I'm going to do my best to give you a broad answer. So Kara, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to me via DM on one of the many social platforms that I'm on, and then we can continue this conversation. But let me talk to you, Preet. I mean,
yes,
maybe you can channel some of the people who are thinking this. When somebody asks that question about how do I build a growth mindset, I think then are you in a non-growth mindset? Like where, what kind of mindset do they have right now? So I have a point of reference.
Right. Yeah, I think like even when you were sharing about, like you're the kind of person that if you see, Adobe Photoshop has a new update and you're like, I really want to learn about these 2 features, and you'll sit through the night till 2 a.m. because that's just, the drive is there, right? And I've had similar conversations with other folks. I think, I don't know, I find it personally, and again, that just be my opinion, that we all can be passionate and driven, but I think the topics might vary, right? So even though I am a designer 9 to 5, I might not spend that much time. But, if I'm trying to figure out, the lighting or the camera setup, and that's what interests me, and I'll just go all deep in, right? And for someone, it's some other outlet.
Yeah, Kyle Cooper used to say this to me all the time. He's like, whatever your hands find to do, do with all your might.
Wow.
Right. So that makes sense. The other thing that I was thinking about is that so many of us live in this autopilot mode where we kind of don't think about the things that we're doing and we just cruise along life. And it's because to critically think, it takes energy and resources in your brain. You feel tired. And if you are not used to doing this, when somebody asks you a thought-provoking question, it might drain your entire energy for the day. But your brain, I guess, is like a muscle. So the more you use it, the more you feel like you can rise to the moment, right? So my wife will often comment on this because she's also a designer, a very talented one, but she's retired for 2 decades now.
Right.
And so she looks at the crazy things that I do. This is my second keynote for today, right? And there was a coaching call this morning. So it's like, I'm already running a lot. And she looks at just one thing that I do in one day, and it would make her exhausted to do it, and she would need a whole month to recover.
Right.
But it's like exercise. If you do a little bit, You start to grow stronger. You adjust and you acclimate to what's going on, and you don't freak out. So there's a talk on this about shifting away from autopilot mode to emergency brake mode.
Right.
You know, it's like when you're driving and something happens and you slam on the brakes, it causes you to be really alert and you pay attention.
Right.
So in my life, I've made a habit of doing this from the earliest time that I can remember, to start to think about the things that I think about. So if I feel an emotion, I don't want to just feel the emotion. I want to think like, what am I feeling? Why do I feel this? And is this the way I want to feel? And what can I do? What's the learning opportunity here? Let me give you an example of how to apply this in real life, especially if you want to have this growth mindset. I have 2 boys now. They're both teenagers, but we would go to the movie theater and we would watch superhero films or these big tentpole pictures that would draw the kids in. And then afterwards, I would ask them, boys, the price of watching the movies, you have to tell me what this movie is about. And I'm not asking them from a summary of like scene to scene what happened, but what are the big themes? Who's the protagonist and what is it that they wanted and why couldn't they get that? And what lesson did they need to learn in life? And my wife is like looking at me here. It's like, can we just enjoy the movie, or do we really have to be this analytical about it afterwards, right? And this is years ago. And my boys would surprise all of us, and they would say, Dad, and this is Green Lantern, a horrible movie. Dad, yeah, what Green Lantern wants to do is to fight people to prove that he is not his dad. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty profound. And then what he needed to learn was to love himself, and that he was okay, that he was angry trying to prove something that was not his fault. Wow. And this is coming from the mouth of like probably an 8-year-old child. Right. And that's what I mean. It's like to be curious, to live on this emergency brake mode. And that's how my life now. So as soon as this call is over, I'm going to melt into a puddle of flesh, and then I'm going to take a break, right? But now I'm used to like living to this moment when you could throw a question at me and I'm ready to answer it for you. Right. I don't know if that was entirely helpful to Kara, and I apologize if it's not, but really be curious, and whatever your hands find to do with all your might, and wake up from the dream. Like we're all living in this dream and we just need to wake up.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chris. I think that definitely is, again, a thought and perspective that, we often don't think about, even though it seems, a little obvious, because as designers, you're working with these frameworks and activities and processes for digital things and things you're designing, right? You try to get into the heads of the user or the consumer and all those things, but we never apply it internally to our own minds and how we behave throughout the day. I think that was an incredible thought to complete this conversation on. And again, I'm amazed you already had a consulting call in the day, and this is the second keynote, but still every word and every learning that you shared was so profound. It's almost like, reading off a script, but of course, it was not. So thank you so much, Chris. That was incredibly helpful. I'm sure, people, our attendees might be kind of DMing you with more questions and things. Are there places where they should preferably connect with you on, apart from, of course, the YouTube channel that many are aware of? Where else can they go to learn more about your journey and the future?
Thanks for asking that, and thanks for having me, and all of you who tuned in. If you want to reach out to me, the best way I can think of is to comment on the platform in which you're engaging with the content. People will hit me up on LinkedIn and say, well, that YouTube video? You could just ask me on YouTube, and then I'll answer you there. Right. Or you remember that tweet that you said, but then they asked me on some other platform on Facebook. It just doesn't make sense, so that I don't have to track the conversation. You could just reply to my tweet in real time, and I'll do my best to answer you. But I'm available on almost every single platform, on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Facebook. So just message me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. Really, really appreciate you joining us and sharing so much knowledge and quite some interesting and exciting information about your projects, from a holistic point of view. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope to, when the travel ban is removed and we've got this pandemic under order, to be traveling again, because I really do want to see you and all of you. Like, I love Toronto, so I'd love to be back.
Yeah, we'd love to host you. We again, can't wait for this to be over. It was also surreal when we were doing the tech check. I was like, wait, Chris looks exactly like he is on the YouTube video, but I'm talking to him now.
I can talk back to you now. That's the difference.
Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks on behalf of everyone. There are a lot of compliments and comments coming and appreciation for everything that you shared today. So thank you so much.
Okay. My pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Chris. Bye.
Bye.